Hi everyone, my name is Robin Lewis, and in this video I'm going to be making a simple T-box with the help of two relatively new tools, an 8-inch parallelogram jointer and a 16-inch industrial thicknesser, both from Sherwood. The timber I'm using is celery top pine and it comes in these big blocks. They're a lot of fun to use on the jointer because there's no flex in the timber, so you can just push them straight through. And something I've come to appreciate with a jointer of this size is that when you have a machine this big, it doesn't move either. So the entire operation is a lot more pleasant and a lot more safe. After getting two sides flat and 90 degrees to each other, I could take the block over to the thicknesser to get the rest of the sides flat and square. These two machines are a great combo together. And because they're both 3 horsepower with spiral heads, they have no problem chewing through timber like this. Now I'm going to cut some strips out of this which will make up the side walls of the box. Having built a box roughly of this shape, I know between 12 and 15 millimeters is kind of the sweet spot. Anything less than that, you run the risk of having a box that's too delicate. Anything more, it ends up a bit chonky and it just looks too heavy. So I'm going to cut these at around 17 mil. That gives me a few mil to clean them up, and that'll get me down to around 13, 14 mil. Something to consider with these two machines is they are both 15 amp. So if you are building or upgrading your workshop, get more 15 amp outlets than you think you need at that time, because you may need them later on. Something I like to do with my boxes is add a little detail to the top and bottom of the side panels by gluing on a strip of a different timber. It doesn't have to be too contrasting, although in this case I'm using a very contrasting timber with this Tasmanian myrtle, but it just adds an extra detail and a bit of appeal to that side panel. With all those strips glued to the side panels, I could now thickness the side panel as a whole and get both sides flush and parallel. To get the groove cut into the side panels, I'm using a router with a 6mm downcut spiral bit. You could do this operation on the table saw, but I don't have a table saw. So if you're in the same boat as me, this is a good solution to get that groove cut. At the time of filming, I didn't have any way of doing a 90-degree cut. So instead, I'm taking it from the bandsaw over to this belt sander where I'm truing it up. Next up were the bottom panels. These are going to be cut into 6mm strips from one of these blocks. That strip will then be cut in half, and then 3 of those halves will be glued together to make up the bottom panel, which will slot into the groove that was cut with the router earlier. Again, without a miter saw or table saw, cutting a good accurate miter will be a bit more tricky. So in this case, I'm just going with a butt join, which is perfectly adequate for this application. But before I do that, I need to get the bottom panel cut to size. With the dry fit done, I could go to glue the sides up, making sure not to get any glue around that bottom panel, because that bottom panel will slightly expand and contract, so I wanted to be able to do that freely. I'm gluing up the top panel from multiple strips, as this will create a more stable panel as opposed to using one wide piece of timber. The beauty of having a thicknesser here is that you can glue these up, throw them through the thicknesser, and in no time at all you end up with one solid panel. The last bit of woodworking was to cut a rebate around that top panel so it would fit inside the box, and then flip the box over and make sure that it sat flat. In this case, there was a bit of wobble in some of the boxes, so I had to correct that. If I was to put the box through perpendicular, I would have a bad time because it's going to hit that edge and blow those fibers out. But if I skew this like that, everything's on a 45 degree, and because the knives on this thickness are still new and very sharp, I should get away with this.
That worked perfectly.
One last bit of finessing with some hand sandpaper and some cutting board oil later, and the boxes were done. So thanks for watching. If you want to see any of the products mentioned in this video, head over to Timbecon's website or check them out in store. My name is Robin Lewis. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.